Hey there guys, and welcome finally to my new project, which is not that new actually, if you have already following me on Twitter and maybe on Twitch as well, and you are in the Facebook group, which is pretty well known for theme park simulation games, then you will already know. But I'm happy that we are finally in the video, in the first episode of my Space Mountain project. As many of you do know, this was actually my very first project I've made in Planet Coaster back in Alpha 1. I just started the my entire life, so to say, in Planet Coaster by just building a Space Mountain. And what you actually do see here is a blueprint which I made out of my very first Space Mountain I've made back then. So the reason that I just use those old pieces is pretty simple, because back in the day, although we didn't have so many tools to actually be as precise as we can be nowadays, I somehow managed to really get in the size and the proportion and the overall look and feel of the dome very good. And so I thought, why should I change it and run into the danger that this time I do mess up things? I just took it as an example to see if the sizes do match, and yeah, this is pretty much how I started. And yeah, well, since I'm going to record a few episodes today, I'm not going to talk over the whole time-lapse this time, but I will give you a lot of information about what made me rebuild Space Mountain again, because, well, basically the first time I did this was a really huge approach, and it was really hard to do because we didn't have too many tools back then to, for example, rotate pieces and stuff like this, and we did also have a lot of problems to get in different angles just from the angles that different pieces offered us. So for example, like if you did want to have kind of a tilt look of a roof, you needed to grab another roof, an in-game roof, and put down planks on top of it, and use the align to surface option to pretty much align it. And then you had also the problems that pieces wouldn't be easily copied around, because there was not the option to copy them around by the axis. You just had to do it manually, and it always kind of jumped back into its original position, and it was really hard to do. So this made me think if it would be a cool idea to actually redo the entire Space Mountain build again. So basically, why is it Space Mountain? It's first of all because I do love the coaster. I must say it's a really rough coaster, and it's not too comfortable to ride it. But I love the overall thing. I love the overall Jules Verne steampunkish kind of look of his future. Yeah, it's not plans, but his future vision and utopia. This is kind of something I do really like about this ride, and I also like the kind of the shape of the dome. And basically, yeah, what I have to mention is that it's obviously I'm going for the Paris version of Space Mountain, which is, I guess, pretty obvious. But just to mention it, I just do the Paris version because I think it's the most beautiful of all of them, and it's also the most easy version to recognize, and it's also the most picturesque version, I guess. So this is basically why I'm going to build the Paris version, and because I actually wanted to have a comparison. That's also a big reason. So back then in Alpha 1, I also did it because of the reasons I've just mentioned, and just, for example, to try out what the game does offer. And the game has made some huge improvements in nearly every aspect you can imagine. And so I wanted to just check if that is also the case with the building tool in general and the overall level of detail we can put into the game. Really obviously, this will again be a performance killer, no doubt about this. You will see me build in the craziest detail you can imagine, and I will put in so many pieces that you can't even follow me sometimes, because the time lapse is sped up to 12 times, I guess, in some of the episodes, not in all. but in some of those really detailed work episodes I needed to speed up a lot of more times than usually, just to make it easy to watch. So but it's so crazy how many pieces I needed to recreate some aspects of the overall look of the dome and of the tube and stuff like this. And in this first episode it will be mainly about the piece you can see here. I will be preparing a blueprint that can be used to copy it around, and I'm not sure whether I will be releasing it later on. I will definitely release the map with the final build of this coaster, but I will also release some of those single blueprints if it is possible. I guess it's just about the roof and some of the fences and some of the steampunkish assets I can release, but everything apart from this is way above 2,000 pieces. For example, the station, which is already done, I can mention that is about 11,000 pieces just for the station. It's made out of 3 blueprints, I guess, but each of the blueprints is way above 2,000 as well. So basically, but just to going back to the roof, it was kind of a hard deal to exactly get the look of the roof, because it's I looked up a lot of photos from satellite photos up to Google Maps images, and also old photos I could get. And I'm also really thankful for some nice guy out of the Facebook group who sent me a lot of nice high definition images, and I won't mention him here because I don't know if that's okay. So I think he knows when I'm talking about, and thanked a lot for this, because this helped me a lot to get it in, obviously. And this is maybe something I need to say as well in the first episode. I'm going for a recreation that kind of gives you the feeling, and that kind of is as close as possible to the real world version, but I will also go in for some compromises. This is basically down to the point I just tried around a lot of stuff before actually going into the build, and I was pretty certain that it could be done really accurately, but not 100%. So you will see me doing, over the whole episodes of this build, you will see me doing a few, let's say, compromise actions. I don't know how to call this in English, but I even don't know how to call it in German, so it's hard to tell. I needed to do some workarounds that actually made me, or put me into a position where I could actually make it look like the real thing without actually copying what it is in the real world. So it's basically down to some really small details that you do actually see in the real world version, but you kind of just can somehow, you can figure it would be in the Planet Coaster version, even though it's not actually in. So yeah, that's basically something I wanted to mention before, because I think there will be people mentioning some stuff that's different compared to the real life version. For example, those triangles you can see here, they're actually in the real world version, they are smaller, and they are also always like rectangular triangles, and I needed to do like a little bit of a deal to make it look like the real world version by just making them in different angles to connect them between those parts, because the smallest of these iron bars wasn't small enough to get all these in the exact right position. So I just figured the best solution is to go over with a few trade-offs, just to move them in a position that they do work together when you do copy around this blueprint piece over here, which is obviously one of the parts. And here you can see me doing a little jump into a later stage of this thing. It's basically because I forgot to record, and this thing you can see over here, the roof part, one of the first roof parts, took me like, I don't know, 3 or 4 goes before it was really in the state I wanted to go on with it. So I just cut out all the trial and error, which I normally don't do, just to show you that I also do some trial and error. But in this case, since I have so many episodes, I didn't want to put this in because it's kind of senseless to show you how I was struggling around, and which is not easy to spot in this moment here, but I kind of came along with a little trick I wanted to kind of quickly explain now. You can actually bring in two different blueprints if you want. So you can basically, as I do here, edit one blueprint, and if you would, for example, like I wanted to have it, just have the red part on top of it and want to stick it into another blueprint because you want to have exactly the same thing in the other blueprint as well. Make sure that you don't have any grid piece within the red roof part, and then just copy the whole blueprint one time, delete all the stuff you don't want to have in the other blueprint, and then you can grab just the red thing which is left over, which will then turn into just scenery pieces without being a building, so that they just kind of float away in the area. What you then have to do is move away the old blueprint and just move on this space where you do have those pieces floating around, the new blueprint where you want to have those pieces in, and then you do select all of them, select the blueprint you want to have them in and those pieces you want to have in the blueprint, and then you can see on the right top part of the screen you will see an option to insert the close lying pieces, scenery pieces, into the blueprint which is selected, and so you can just build in one, as I did, like build in one of those two blueprints and try around with like the roof part, and then just copy it over into the other one, so you don't have to redo the whole thing in the other blueprint again. So this is basically a cool thing to do when you forgot something and you already started to copy stuff around and already started to shape out the entire layout. So this is maybe a good trick, and I hope you kind of understood what I was up to, because it was not too easy to understand, I guess, without having a slow moving video in the background to understand. But yeah, so this is also a little trick I found out while doing this. Maybe you already know about it, but yeah, anyway. So what you can also see here is that I used this and made this to a blueprint all the time, and I also already did a bigger one, so that wasn't not too kind of annoying to copy it around all the time, because obviously I had to try it a few times how it looks to move on. And what is actually something somebody already posted under my photo I've released on the Facebook group. They kind of thought that the roof isn't in the degree it should be, because the real world version is like 32 degrees tilt, the roof, and so you could easily do the dome if you do know that this is just about 32 degrees. And I guess my one should be something about 31 degrees or maybe 30.5 degrees. I don't know, because I used the movement tool with having angle snap turned on and just turned it 2 times. So since angle snap is capable of doing 15 degrees turns, it should be 30 degrees. And then I moved it slightly with the angle snap option deactivated. I moved it slightly a little bit further, so it should be something slightly over 30 degrees, so pretty close to the actual version. But as well, as I said at the beginning, I had to do some trade-offs every here and then, and this is also another trade-off I had to do. The whole dome is a little bit bigger than the actual one is, so this is basically down to the reason that I had to fit the whole coaster in. And I also tried to make it pitch black, which is only possible if you do have terrain over the coaster, and I wanted to create kind of a little room in between the actual outer shape of the dome and the inner shape of the dome to create this pitch black area, which was kind of a good idea, which doesn't work, because it's also not only down to terrain, it's also down to the fact that you have to be underground. Or at least the terrain has to be as thick as the underground terrain would be, kind of something like this. And so I can't just put in some terrain to make it dark. It has also to be, I think, below the sea level, which I didn't know before, and so I didn't want to redo everything. So at this point in time, I have no idea how I will do the overall experience later on, but I will kind of try something out to get in with a good solution, that you have a nice video. Maybe I will then make a really big hole out of terrain over on top of the whole area, and then kind of try to film it so you can't see the actual terrain on top of it, but I'm not sure how to do it yet. But anyways, you will see now a little bit of doing the little lake in front of the coaster, or in front of the dome, which will be redone within the episodes a few times because I messed up with the whole layout. And yeah, it's also trying around a little bit. But this should be it for this episode with my commentary. I need to drink a little bit before going on into the next episode, but I hope you do like the first episode of Space Mountain. And well, maybe one important thing I have to mention. I will now release every second day an episode. So I have 6 episodes already done, so those are secured, uploaded, and I'm pretty sure that this will work. There are a few minor things that could happen, for example copyright issues, because of a lot of problems with that, and within the last few weeks. I've no idea why, but anyways, or maybe something else is going wrong with YouTube, I don't know. But as it's down to my personal kind of status quo, I can just say that those episodes are ready, and so I hope that you will get every second day an episode for the next 2 weeks, and then let's see how close we are to the final release. So as I said, hope you liked it, and see you in the next episode. Bye bye guys.